Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with attorney Brian D. Lerner. In this particular episode, I'd like to talk a bit about how you get the real property into the living trust. Because a lot of times, and I can't tell you how many times a client will say, well, I did my living trust, I listed my properties to go in there, and now everything's set and I can go to the beach and have a Mai Tai. Well, it doesn't work like that. That's a good first step, getting the living trust done, getting it properly executed, putting the property that you want in the living trust. That is all a good and necessary first step. But that's not where it ends. In order to actually get the property into the trust, you have to have, after the living trust is done, you have to create a deed of trust. And the deed of trust has to show that whoever currently owns the property, let's say that it's you and your wife, owned as community property, you have to take that title, that ownership, and you then have to grant it through a grant deed to the name of the living trust. So let's say it's John and Joe, Basel Living Trust. So John and Joe, owners of the property as community property, grant to the John and Joe Basel Living Trust, and so forth. And you need to word it properly, and put the legal description of the land and so forth. And then after you get that particular deed of trust created, you should also get a certification of the trust so you can prove the living trust exists. And then you go to the recorder's office. If you, of course, live in the jurisdiction of the Los Angeles recorder's office, that's where you go. And you take that and you get it filed. And the moment that it actually gets filed, that is when it is officially in the living trust, and it's no longer actually in your names. Now, it doesn't change the alter the nature of the property. So if it's separate property, it remains separate property, even if it's in the living trust under both of your names. Same with community property. Now, there's a whole another video I've done is to if you have it with joint tenants with right of survivorship, there's some issues there. There's lots of issues with whether you can transfer that in the trust, and even if you do, what happens to it. But for all intents and purposes, that's the main document that you want to have go into to get it in the living trust. And then also there's other documents that need to be filed at the recorder's office so they can get to the assessor's office, and that would be the preliminary change of ownership, and also possible tax exemptions, because you're not really changing physically who owns the property. It's just going into a trust, and there shouldn't be any reassessment or any tax implications as far as negative ones when you do this. Now, that is to get it in the trust. Now, how do you get it out? Well, obviously, if you want to dissolve the trust and revoke it and so forth, you can do all that. And again, you take the name of the what the current property is under, which then would be the name of the trust, and then you forward it into the name of the individuals or the couple. But where it mostly comes into play is when the trustors, which would be you and or your spouse, die, and then the trustee then has the duty to follow the distribution instructions on the living trust. And let's say that you want the property to go to your son. Then at the proper time, the son or the trustee would then show the death certificates, would show the proof of death and so forth, and then would create another deed of trust, which would then show that it's going from the trust itself to the name of the intended beneficiary. Okay, and then once that's filed, then it is out of the trust. And again, there needs to be a preliminary change of ownership. There are exceptions to where it won't have to be reassessed, and there are instances where it will have to be, and there's taxable consequences. But we'll have more videos on that. And then, of course, you file the exemption, preliminary change of ownership, and then the deed to get it out of the trust. So that, in a nutshell, is how you get property into the trust, and then how you get it out of the trust. If you like the video, click like, subscribe, and also you can go and give my office a call. I'll give you a free consultation. If you're not within the local area of Long Beach, anywhere in the state of California, I give telephonic free consultations because the law of estate law is the same anywhere in California, although jurisdictionally there's some issues, but as long as one is licensed in the state of California, I can help you wherever you are in the state of California. Okay, more in the coming videos.